Welcome to the Planet Pulse Pacific podcast. My name is Ben Altberg and I'm coming to you from Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. Tēnei ka mihi ke te mana whenua o Aotearoa.
And g'day, I'm Emma Strutt and I'm talking to you from Darrinbal Country in Queensland. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, waters and community.
And kia ora, I'm Abby. I'm coming to you from Te Whanganui-a-Tara in Wellington.
And finally, if you find value in this potty, please help us get the word out there. So share it with a friend or consider buying us a coffee if you'd like to help support our work. Today we're joined by Jess Lamb, our very own Hub Leader extraordinaire for Athletes for Nature in Christchurch and also the Sustainability Coordinator at Without Waste. Jess is a passionate nature and zero waste advocate, and she's also a plant-powered trail runner, avid hiker, and deeply committed to helping our society move towards a circular economy and rewilding our cities and urban centres. We're very keen to dive straight into this yarn today. So without further ado, Jess, thank you so much for joining us.
Kia ora, thanks for having me.
I don't even know where to begin because I've known Jess for a while now, and Jess has been a phenomenal asset to Athletes for Nature, which to a lot of our listeners, we mentioned it quite a bit. It falls under the Lentil Intervention. So Jess, I'm going to hand it to you. Jessica Lamb, tell us who you are.
Sure. I always find it hard doing intros, but yeah, like you said, Emma, I love trail running. I grew up in Rotorua, which is how I found my passion for nature, sustainability, and being connected to the forest. So I grew up there running on the trails, and then I started conservation work in our beautiful Ngāhere Indigenous forest up there with Forest and Bird, and that's kind of how I found my passion and kept going with the work that I do now.
And what first pulled you towards sustainability and your passion for nature?
Yeah, at school I was doing this program called Duke of Edinburgh, which is an international award program. We have to do hiking, volunteering, a skill, and can't remember what the other one was. But my skill was sustainability because the volunteering that I found myself doing was with Forest and Bird, and it's something that really inspired me to do more, which is why I found myself doing waste minimisation kind of thing, plant-based cooking, rubbish cleanups. And I just never stopped. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
And then that led you to what you studied at university.
Yeah. So I studied environmental science and geography at uni. And that's because when I was at high school, I did my internships with the Rotorua Lakes Council. So that was in the sustainability and solid waste team. And so through my internships there, I realised how much of a problem waste is, and that New Zealand is so clean and green, but we're so wasteful as well. So that's what led me to pursue environmental science, and is why I now work with that waste minimisation space for my job.
And let's digress a little bit because it all come back together. What about your passion for trail running? You mentioned Rotorua. Rotorua is a well-known mountain biking hub for New Zealand, but trail running's pretty keen in that little town as well. So why trail running and not mountain biking?
Yeah, good question, Ben. Well, I grew up mountain biking, and then at intermediate school, we had to run every day for cross country. And I was like, this sucks running around streets. Why not train extra in the forest? So I started running more after school in the forest with my dad. And that's why I stopped mountain biking, because I just found running better. I got more into the flow. Nothing gets mountain biking. It's a great cross training. But yeah, trail running kind of just spoke to me more. It's kind of more freeing because you don't need a bike. You kind of just need a pair of shoes and off you go.
What do you think you get? What do you think you get out of being on the trails that you just can't get anywhere else?
I don't know. For trail running just speaks to me. I feel like mountain biking is quite clunky and more dangerous, I feel, as well. Everyone breaks their collarbones and their bones. Even though I'm injured now for running, it is definitely a safer sport. So yeah, it just speaks to me more. And I love how for running you can explore more with it and it being cheaper. I run a lot of the great walks around New Zealand, and it's a lot faster rather than walking the trails, and cheaper because you have to book the hut. So yeah, that's also why it speaks to me more.
Tell us a little bit about, because you've been very involved, right from sort of a basic involvement to leadership, but tell us a little bit about your role with Forest and Bird Youth, because that's been quite a prominent part of your journey of evolving not just your passion, but bringing action to it all.
Yeah, so I got involved, Abby, you might know this, I got involved in Forest and Bird when I was doing my Duke of Edinburgh, and then we got an email about the conference coming up. So me and my twin sister went to that, and that's kind of when Forest and Bird Youth was being launched. So that was back in 2019. And then they were like, why don't you start up a Rotorua hub? So at the time, there was a Wellington hub, Auckland hub, I believe a Christchurch hub as well. So yeah, we got involved in that, and it was a great way to meet people, encourage youth to get involved in climate action, which is something I'm super passionate about because lots of youth don't do anything, even though they have climate anxiety. And so I feel when you're doing something tangible and you can see what you're doing, it is a huge relief, and you find those connections as well, which yeah brings down your climate anxiety. And because there's hubs all around the country for Forest and Mid Youth, when I moved to Christchurch for uni, I just got involved in the hub there. So it's kind of like a continuous building throughout your life until you get too old.
But you've evolved into more of a leadership role over the last couple of years, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was a youth leader in the Rotorua hub because I founded it, and then I was a youth leader in the Christchurch hub. And then it must be like a year and a half ago now, I was the youth director, which was the national director of the whole Forest and Bird Youth Network. But yeah, now I'm just the youth advisor.
I've had the privilege of getting to work with Jess a bit over the past couple of years, also with Forest and Bird Youth, and just becoming friends who work with a lot of mahi together. And one thing that really fascinates me about a lot of your mahi is when I think about you as a person, I guess like I can't separate, compost, trail running, waste minimization, Forest and Bird, all of the things you've managed to be able to combine all of your passions together. What do you think has been a big driver for that? How have you sort of been able, the fact that you've been able to sort of work them all together?
Yeah, I think the special thing about Forest and Bird Youth is they want you to pursue what you're passionate about. They don't force you into like where our focus at Forest and Bird at the moment is like tree planting. So go plant as many trees as you can. Like it's not about that. Like if you're passionate about composting, which is what me and my twin sister were, then they support you and fund you to go do those things, which is why Forest and Bird Youth is such a cool network to be part of, and is why I try get as many youth involved as possible. So yeah, that's why it's been such a cool thing to be able to combine all my passions within that organisation.
And have you found that your youth leadership roles have taught you anything in regards to change making that you kind of have carried across into the rest of your life, or things that you implement now to get people really passionate and raring to go?
Yeah, I think it has very much developed my leadership skills, because back when I started in 2019, I was 16 and I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to people. So I think it just builds your confidence as you grow as a person as well. So it's kind of taught me everything of who I am today, like project leadership skills, social media management, networking, all those kind of important things that you need for the work environment as well.
Well, a big shout out to the Forest and Bird youth team, because we've started a bit of a relationship with them through Athletes for Nature last year, and the mentorship program, our first year that we ran, I think half the participants were from Forest and Bird Youth. So kind of establishing a bit of a symbiotic working relationship, a lot in common, and we hope to build on that this year, of course. And now, of course, you've left uni, you're in the big adult world, you've got a job, you call it your dream job. Tell us a little bit about Without Waste.
Yeah, so Without Waste is a national organisation. Our hubs, or our branches, are based in Auckland, Queenstown, and Christchurch. And so we empower events and businesses on their zero waste journey, which is, I think, our slogan. So yeah, it's basically hand sorting all the waste to divert it into organics, landfill, and recycling. Because if you don't hand sort all of those, it's just all contaminated, so it has to go to landfill. And so that's a big reason why we exist, because the legislation coming in from councils is that you have to hand sort, because our landfills are filling up fast and the waste levy is going up too. So it's just getting more and more expensive, as well as obviously the environmental destruction of putting things into a landfill.
And is this kind of where your passion for the circular economy principles has come from?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I know when you kind of go into the field of sustainability and environmental science, there's so many different routes we can go down. And I'm sure, and we've seen it a lot, I guess, with Forest and Bird Youth and with kind of anyone who goes through that field. Was there any kind of memory of what first kind of stuck out to you about the waste minimization and reducing waste?
Yeah, well, I got into waste minimisation because at my school, well, in Rotorua, we don't have curbside organic bins like you guys up in Auckland and here in Christchurch. I don't think you have them in Wellington, eh? So all of our food scraps, yeah, we're going to landfill, and we just had set up a compost bin at our home, and so we were bringing our food scraps home from school, and then all of our friends were asking us if we could take it home as well, which wasn't very easy on a bus. The bus driver wasn't very happy. So we started setting up food scrap organic bins at school. And then from there, like the council got involved because we wanted to run like national competitions at our school to get people putting their food scraps in those bins rather than the landfill bins. And that's kind of how I got my internship at the Little Lakes Council with the waste team, and how my passion for waste grew. So I didn't try to fall into the waste minimisation space. It kind of just happened.
So Athletes for Nature is relatively new, about a year and a half. And probably within 6 months, we launched our first hub outside, because we're Auckland based. So technically we could say Auckland is a hub, but a lot is run out of here. So part of Athletes for Nature's vision is to be nationwide, as we want to be Australasian predominantly eventually. So it's all about hubs, because our focus is on community, and to become a member is joining a community of like-minded individuals that care about the outdoors and want to do more for it. And hubs are destined to be those touch points. So a lot of people living in the same area can come together and do cleanups and so on. So our very first hub was Christchurch, and that's been Jess, clearly got experience in launching new initiatives. So my question to you, Jess, is why Athletes for Nature? Why did you put your hand up?
Did Ben bully you into it?
Yeah,
nice way.
I first found out about Athletes for Nature because of the podcast. So back then it was called the Lentil Intervention Podcast, and I was like, what, lentils? I was so curious. And then my friends, the Rubber Strip, Hannah and Liam, were on the podcast, and I was like, they shared the post, and I was like, this must be something I need to know about. So that's kind of how I found out about Athletes for Nature, because it's linked to the podcast, which is kind of funny now that I'm on the podcast. It's like a full circle. But yeah, Athletes for Nature kind of stood up for me because it combined my two passions of being an athlete and taking action for nature. So it's kind of a no-brainer, and Ben did reach out to me. And there wasn't a Christchurch hub, and I was like, there needs to be a hub down here. Like, I love the movement. More athletes need to know about this. So yeah, just a no-brainer, really.
And why do you think athletes and outdoor enthusiasts have such a powerful voice in environmental conversations?
Yeah, well, I think especially for trail runners and athletes that are out immersed in nature all the time for their training, we see the impacts of climate change and we see waste on the trails. So we need to look after what we're running through. And that's why I think we need to look after it. A big thing that I love about trail running is I was part of regeneration of wetlands up in Rotorua. So planting trees and getting rid of weeds. And when I go back to Rotorua for holidays and I'm running for that part, I'm like, it's so cool. I was like part of that. So seeing change over time, especially where you train, is something very impactful and empowers you to do more.
I think the timing of this episode is quite pertinent because for our listeners here in New Zealand, we're seeing a lot of climate-related events, a lot of slips happening because our grounds are waterlogged, and we're not getting into the debate why and so on. But if you are interested, Martin Brook, we interviewed 2 seasons ago, go listen to that episode and tell you a little bit more about the state of our grounds. And Australia hitting record highs temperature-wise. So, when we talk about connection, yes, as athletes, and not just trail runners, mountain bikers too, trampers and ocean swimmers and so on, you do firsthand see the impacts, whether it's an event and there has to be a course change or maybe cancel because of extreme heat, or you're just going out to enjoy and, hey, a bridge has been washed away, or the ocean's polluted, can't swim because of all the runoff of the land and because of inundations and so on. So yes, athletes do very much firsthand see the impacts, and usually perhaps we're first to see it, or we see it in more isolated locations as well. You're right, Jess, there's very much a very big connection. But let's talk a little bit more about, we're in 2026 now, and every year things progress and there's all these new initiatives, and Athletes for Nature is a little bit in a unique position here because there's not many entities like us. Outdoor movement. Where do you think we should be going?
Yeah, big question there, Ben. For me, it comes back to waste. And I think one of the reasons why waste minimization kind of stood out to me in the environmental movement is because you can see the waste you're making. So if you don't make that waste, it is very obvious to see the impact you're making. And I think as athletes, we can create a lot of waste. Like as as trail runners, we go through a lot of gels, we go through a lot of snacks. And if you buy it from a supermarket or just online, it comes in a lot of single-use packaging. So I think finding alternatives to be less wasteful in your training is super important. And I think it comes from us athletes, but also the companies that are making it. I was on an episode recently on the podcast Girl Woman Athlete, and here in Christchurch, the Pure brand is located here, all the companies and stuff. And I think it'd be cool if we could rock up with our gel packets and they just refill it, and then you take the packaging back to either get reused or recycled in an actual proper recycling way rather than just a greenwash way. So yeah, I think waste is a super impactful way that we can as athletes make a difference.
Yeah, that reminds me, I remember I did the half marathon in Auckland a couple of years ago, and it was really cool to sort of see that non-stop solutions were there, and how that every sort of cup that you're running past, and every cup you use kind of gets thrown out, and a lot of people end up sort of throwing them on the floor because you're just kind of running in the middle of it. And yeah, and then my second year going through, seeing that then they had the reusable cups was just so incredibly cool, and it also generated a lot of jobs. A lot of people were having summer jobs working to clean and reuse those cups, and it was in a time where a lot of people were really struggling to find jobs. So I just thought that was really incredible, and I thought it was a really great way to bring big events and things like that do create a lot of waste to kind of bring some good to it.
Yeah, for sure. We work with Non-Stop Solutions. They're so awesome. Yeah, they work with Feel Good. I really want to do a race in Wellington and just run so I can see the reusable cups, because I've never seen it in action. I think they do some of it up in Auckland as well. So,
I mean, would you agree though that perhaps that's where trail running is a little bit more leading in the whole sustainable movement as a sport? Because you now look at a lot of, I mean, I'm speaking personal experience here, trail events, you're deep in nature, and as a rule, you enter and there's no reusable cups. You have to bring your own. You have to bring a flask. You have to bring your own source of how you're going to consume that fluid. And there's even events where, even how they present their food, it's instead of reusable bowls and so on, they're using, I did an event on the West Coast, and they use the crockery from a hut. So it's all ceramic pots and they pour the chips in there, and that's how so I feel like trail running events are perhaps a little bit more leading in terms of a lot of initiatives, not just waste, but in other areas as well. What are your thoughts on that, Jess? You've competed in some trail running events. What do you think there? I mean, there's a particular event that comes to mind, perhaps?
Yes, I think for sure some trail running events are leading in that, especially our affiliates with Athletes for Nature, like Creator Room Ultra. They do really cool stuff. I think some trail running events definitely need more support in transitioning to become more zero waste. Some events that I've done, all of the organic food scraps, like trail runners eat a lot of bananas, and that's just all going to landfill. And when I did this race, I had to I didn't literally throw. I gave all my watermelon peels and banana peels to my dad so he could take it home to compost. But that's something that does frustrate me, because not all of these events can afford waste minimisation companies to sort through all of their waste, or they don't have that as their priority. So that's something that I really want to see in the future be something that's mainstream, and which is why I'm excited, and why, Ben, you referred to Without Waste as being my dream job, because it's something that I really want to have an impact in that space. So I feel like through my job I can do that.
And outside of the waste minimisation side of things, do you have any other practical tips that trail runners or just weekend warriors can do to genuinely lighten their footprint?
Yeah, comes back to composting. I think composting is such a powerful tool to reduce your waste and lighten your carbon footprint. And if you can do that through home composting rather than curbside organic bins, I won't go into why, because it's a long story. But that can have a huge impact, not just for reducing your emissions, but creating good soil health. And if you're a veggie garden, growing nourishing food to fuel you and your athletic training. Yeah, I'd say that's the main one. Also, getting involved in your local restoration projects. Like I said, it can be really impactful when you go train in that area a few years later and you're seeing the impact that you have.
Yeah, I just want to go back to one point you've made. We do, through Athletes for Nature, have an affiliate program which highlights and acknowledges event organisers, sporting clubs and groups and coaches that are taking steps to lighten their footprint. So that includes, they've got 5 action steps, and one of them is reducing waste. And Jess, you mentioned Cradle Room Ultra. They were the first event to affiliate to Athletes for Nature because they really do. They were the first event that I've ever done that at every checkpoint, every aid station, there was a completely separate box to collect all the gel wrappers. So gel wrappers normally go in the general bin. In fact, everything goes in the general bin and then gets removed from that point. But that was one of the many initiatives that they've put in place. Our affiliate program will evolve. We want to support them more and we want to showcase a lot of those initiatives and things that they're doing. There's progress happening, but of course we want to see a bit more, and supporting them is important. For you personally, Jess, being in Christchurch, it's a mobile city. It's easy to get around, public transport or self-transport, bike, walk, etc. What is another tip for our listeners in general? So they're not necessarily all runners or athletes, but what could be another tip our listeners could take away from this podcast in terms of being less wasteful?
Yeah, I mean, carpooling to training, cycling, I cycle everywhere in Christchurch. So if you have a bike, it's not hard because there's no hills. So I think those are two big ways, not just in terms of waste, but also, emissions.
Yeah, Christchurch is such a flat place. It just seems like it's very transportable to get around, and it surprises me how many people there have cars. Like, I spent a lot of time there last year, and how many students had cars. It was like, surely, I live in Wellington where almost no students have cars, and it's very hilly, and it's quite, hard to get around by biking or like running because it's so hilly. But then somewhere like Christchurch, it's so flat. How many students had cars? It was like, surely this is the place to be biking and running and walking everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, some of my friends, like, they drove to uni, which is like 1K. I'm like, really? Like, you could probably walk. So I don't know what the barriers are to them because parking at the Christchurch Uni is super expensive too. So yeah, I think we just need to empower more people to get on their bikes, especially because it's the Aotearoa Bike Challenge starting soon in February. So it's the time.
We know where you're at now. You've spoken about it. What are your sort of short-term goals over the next, say, 5 years? What are your personal ambitions?
Well, first, get over this current injury I have. Can't wait to walk again with no crutches. But then I want to make the New Zealand mountain running team because I haven't really travelled overseas and I know there's some incredible trails. So yeah, making the New Zealand trail running team would be awesome. And then I'll probably stay over there a bit longer. I'd love to get involved in some of the community conservation and restoration work over there just to see how they do it differently to New Zealand and explore some trails. Otherwise, in terms of waste minimisation, I'd love to see more events be zero waste, especially the one in my hometown because I can see it happening being zero waste. It just isn't quite there yet.
Do you truly believe zero waste is realistic and achievable?
For sure. Zero waste is actually at least 90% diversion. So 100% isn't possible because there's like external waste from event attendees. So 90% is kind of just the solid baseline there. Yeah, but at our work, we generally get events to achieve zero waste in 3 years. So we recently just helped an event, it was a rugby event actually, get from 50% diversion in the first year to 91%. So it's definitely possible when you have the experts around to help and you're sorting the waste and you're putting reuse initiatives in place as well. So yes, for sure.
Well, Jess, it's an exciting year for us with Athletes for Nature. You were, I would say, mostly on your own last year. You've now got a committee with two helpers, Caitlin and Elsa, joining the hub. Well, Caitlin was part last year, but she'll be more involved this year, which is very exciting. So lots more to come in Christchurch, which I'm personally very excited to see. And we are looking to work on supporting more our current affiliates and, of course, onboarding more and supporting and encouraging and inspiring more people to join the community to do more in the whole waste less space. But Jess, you're a big inspiration and we're super grateful for having you on the team. But in general, let's hope you recover from that injury as quickly as possible, get you back on the trails. And thank you for coming onto the show.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for the chat. It's been super fun.